So the biggest, one of my big summary statements for what's changed is we're moving from an attention economy where we're trying to get clicks, we're trying to just get people to download and convert as fast as possible, to an intimacy economy where we are building these relationships that involve trust. And as much as AI is wonderful, and I'm going to show you how we're going to use it to accelerate your jobs, it's also AI that's going to make this a lot worse. Because with so much content and so many people producing just so much, it's only the organizations and brands that have those strong trust-based, value-based, intimate relationships that will be able to survive. Everyone else is going to be drowned in the tidal wave of AI stuff. Welcome, everybody. We've had a fantastic turnout today. I'm very happy to see how many people have been interested in this topic. It's a major passion for me. I can tell you that I've been working with AI so much in the past year and a bit. I've been working with the AI for almost 10 years, but in this past year, it's been such an obsession for me that sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm writing prompts in my head about how I could make better AIs. So I'm definitely very excited to share what we've done so far with you. So I'm going to share my screen. How's that looking? Great. Okay. So this is rapid AI-powered journey mapping, experiences, and content. So we've got several hundred people here today. So I'm hoping some of you are different types of designers. Some people who are using UXpressia are more pure kind of application and system designers. Some are more UX designers that might work in also navigation and labels and calls to action and content strings. Some people might be doing more structured content or working in headless CMSs. So there's going to be a lot in here for different types of UX professional. So Veronica gave me already an excellent introduction. Also, I'm just going to be kind of quick. I am a content strategist and modeler. I've been doing this for over 20 years. What we now call headless CMS or atomic design or object-oriented design. I was doing that in the .com boom. So in 2000, 2001, when we were doing that 7 years before the iPhone, not a lot of people were interested in listening to what we had to say. And now, 24 years later, it's a very exciting topic. Everyone's really excited. I've also been working in artificial intelligence, as I mentioned, for many years. We were working in chatbots early on because we were looking at, when we were talking about structured content, looking at how we could use the right type of content to be able to serve the chat experience. We're also doing things like using AI to automatically categorize content and so on. But generative AI is going to be what I'm talking about mostly today. I have written a book, Content Strategy, Connecting the Dots Between Business, Brand, and Benefits. I'm the founder of two organizations who I've co-founded with my business partner, Elodie Odier. We have Urbina Consulting, which is our consulting arm, which we do projects, and then the Omnichannel X podcast and learning hub. That used to be a conference also. UXpressia were there even on the first year, and we ran it for a few years, but then decided rather than one conference all squished up into 4 days a year, it would be better to have assets all year long. So now we have podcasts twice a month. We have articles coming out of there. We have videos that we do and little tutorials and clips on LinkedIn where you can learn stuff all the time. Our team is based in Europe and North America and includes dozens of specialists of different areas. I work with some of the largest brands in the world. I think everybody on here can recognize a few of these names. What we're going to show you today has been proven in large organizations, but just because you're in a large organization does not mean that you have all the time and money in the world. So even the largest organizations are often not spending enough on research, or you have people who are in a situation where they need to do something fast or get an idea out quickly, or they just have so much work that it's not like they have lots more money or resources than smaller organizations. So what I'm going to talk about today is for every size of organization, and hopefully you'll be able to apply it no matter what industry or or situation you're coming from. Okay, just checking the time there. So Veronica already mentioned our mission. That's for both Urbina Consulting and on Channel X. Our focus is on the implementation, execution, and scaling gap. So we know there's a lot of consultancies who kind of focus on delivering just reports or recommendations, like you should do this, or it'd be nice if you did that. We think that the important thing is delivering results, actually working with clients to help them do things and accomplish things, as opposed to giving them just strategy without execution. And we work at that overlap between business, content, experience, process, and technology, because we think that all of those things have to go together to build a solid relationship these days across all our many channels. Okay, so I'm going to use a structure that I used on the previous UXperia webinar, but I have changed a lot of the content, and we're going to go a lot deeper than we went last time. But the overall structure I really like, which comes from a book called Good Strategy, Bad Strategy by Richard Rummelt. He's not talking about content strategy. He's talking about business strategy, military strategy, any kind of strategy you can think of, sports strategy, how to understand what's happening, what's holding you back, and using that as that diagnosis to then decide what is the method that you're going to use. How can you diagnose better? And what are the methods you can adopt to take better actions? Actions are the things we're looking for. And in this presentation, we're going to look at examples of actions that have helped in the past projects, which is the methodology that I'm going to be showing you. I really believe, like it says in Richard's book, that if you don't integrate strategy and action, if you don't connect things like we're going to do in the journey map, then you can't properly execute on your strategy. And then I'm going to end on how do you define your own next best actions. So what's happening? This is kind of how I perceive what's happening in a lot of our clients and in most organizations. So in most organizations that I work with, we have different departmental heads. They're leading either different departments, they're owning different channels, or they're different product areas. There are different ways that the organization is broken down. And these different leaders have their different bright ideas, which are great, and they present those to their budget holders or managers. Sometimes they talk to each other a little bit, hopefully, and then we all go to market through our different channels. So we're launching newsletters and blogs, and we're creating applications and creating video content and websites. We're designing the product itself, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a lot of attention on what we can get easily from our current systems. And what kind of comes out of the box is just eyeballs. You know, we're often judged on, did the changes get us more views, more clicks, more likes, more promoter score, stuff like that? Are we getting attention? And we're very happy with ourselves. We can get our initiative or our product get some more clicks or views. And if an agency is involved, that's often when they take the money and run. But over time, the whole thing is not performing as it should. And the reason that we see is that the person on the end of this, the human being on the end of this, was not looking for a great widget or a great app or a great page or campaign. They were looking for a relationship with the organization. They were looking to get help with something that they wanted to do. It could be something as simple as being entertained, but it could be something very important. Like we work with banks and pharmaceutical companies, major manufacturers where you buy all the furniture for your house. And what we're talking about when we're thinking in omni-channel and journey-focused design is aligning around customer experience. So we believe that and I just did actually this morning a whole different webinar on this topic about the way that you measure and design metrics for measuring your journey. I'm going to talk about that a little bit in this session, because I think that artificial intelligence helps us get to that exciting bit of how do we measure the journey faster? One of our main problems is that it takes a lot of time to figure out customer journeys. It takes a lot of time to kind of do the research and apply the research. So what AI can do is it can get us to a point where we're getting to the good part, the fun part of developing new designs, developing ideas, and also, of course, developing the metric strategies that are going to be used to evaluate them much faster and more easily. So to align around customer experience, we need a customer-centric strategy. We need omni-channel governance. So, if we're setting up design standards, whether those are for our UI, UX, or our content, those have to be consistent across channels and touch points. If things I'm doing in the newsletter, ways that I write buttons or calls to action in the newsletter, or terminology I use in the newsletter, is going to then lead to the website, which may then activate things in the app, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if we're not checking together as cross-functional teams, then things very quickly fall apart in terms of customer experience across the journey. If we're going to have governance, which is processes and shared control over how we do things, we have to write things down. And one of the reasons that I like UXpressio so much is because I see a lot of customer journeys and personas, which are, they are one of the things that we use to define our market understanding. If you're using a tool like PowerPoint, or if you're creating a big picture of the customer experience or the customer journey and then just printing it off, it often becomes a very static thing. And what you need documented standards. You need a documented understanding of customer experience that is easy to update. So it's documented, but it's not like a document. It's something that's live and updatable and shareable and supports collaboration. So however you're doing your journeys, obviously we like UXpressio a lot, but however you're doing your journeys, the idea here is that these needs to be something that people can access in a dynamic way when they need to work, that you can iterate on regularly. It's not a graphic. It's a piece of business intelligence. And then cross-platform content and categorization. So the tags, the terms, the navigation concepts, all these things that we build need to be in a common structure. So if I am building UX widgets, or if I am writing copy or creating content, that has to be within one shared framework. And then all of that is a positive cycle. So we check how are our personas doing on their journeys, and that tells us whether we have to update our strategy, how our governance is working, whether our standards needs updating, and whether our categorization systems need updating. When we put all these together, that's when we've seen these things to be really transformative. Not improving customer effort score or satisfaction by 5 or 10%, but 20, 30, sometimes 100% changes in things. And so the biggest, one of my big summary statements for what's changed is we're moving from an attention economy where we're trying to get clicks, we're trying to just get people to download and convert as fast as possible, to an intimacy economy where we are building these relationships that involve trust. And as much as AI is wonderful, and I'm going to show you how we're going to use it to accelerate your jobs, it's also AI that's going to make this a lot worse, because with so much content and so many people producing just so much, it's only the organizations and brands that have those strong trust-based, value-based, intimate relationships that will be able to survive. Everyone else is going to be drowned in the tidal wave of AI stuff. This is an article from Harvard Business Review about common mistakes when measuring your strategy and performance. This is going to come up a lot later when I'm talking about mapping everything together with the journey map. one of their biggest comments is non-matching frameworks. So strategic frameworks that don't align with the performance measurement system. So for instance, they tell a story in the article about a CEO who organized their strategic plan based on areas such as energy reduction, governance, material sourcing. But the performance measurement, the metrics, were based on programs like safety, road efficiency, and road maintenance. So there's a disconnect between two levels of the business about what are we trying to do? What is important? How do we organize things? The solution is to organize both strategy and KPIs around key stakeholders. So the personas and your relationship with them is how you should organize your measurement. The other thing they're doing is they're managing activities. So the mistake is managers often measure activities rather than results. So did we get the campaign out? Did we launch the update on time? Did we, create the new page or widget? So there's a lot of focus on what was done rather than what was the outcome of what was done. So here we want to focus on outcomes. We want performance measurement that should be about the results produced for the key stakeholders. So on our persona, are we mapping a metrics to what is this persona's key jobs to be done, and how are we doing to support their journeys? Lack of alignment and focus. Some organizations collect measures from various departments, leading to long and unfocused list of KPIs. So the remedy is to cascade metrics from top to bottom, ensuring that measures at one level are appropriate for that level. So again, this is something really that has, for me, there has been a before and after in my career. There was before I did journey maps and after I did journey maps. And everything about the way that I work and our business has changed since we started doing journey mapping, because it brings everybody from different levels and from different teams together around the journey. And it's then when we can figure out, what does success really look like, and what are we actually going to do? So basically, performance should fundamentally be about measuring relationships with an organization's key stakeholders. When we're doing UX, we're kind of building the rainbow, and we're doing all this design, we're building all this functionality, but it's all there so that the user can get to their objective. Their objective might be, could be content, it could be some sort of outcome, but are we actually looking at and making sure that our user is moving along the rainbow to the pot of gold? If we don't, then we're in trouble. So in summary, the main problems we're going to be trying to solve are not enough or no budget being allocated to journey mapping, and that resulting in no shared frameworks for understanding audience journeys, which means we don't have a common pictures of the stages of the journey, or how we even know that people are going through the journeys. We have disconnected strategies and experiences, especially across channels. And we have no reusable, consistent design or content objects. So you may have heard terms like modular design, atomic design, object-oriented design. There's also modular content, atomic content, etc. So whatever it is we're creating, it's not reusable, and we can't be consistent. So that's sort of what I see as the problem. So the journey mapping process and the persona process are how really we can diagnose in our business what does the user really need, and how are we going to serve them better. So the way I like to reframe AI is good at doing tasks, not jobs. I think there's still a lot of paranoia about people being replaced by AI, which I'm not saying that's not going to happen. But at the moment, we need to think about how can we define clear tasks for the AI to do, and not expect them to do large, complex jobs. They're not there yet. There may be in the coming years some better, more complex tasks, but replacing a real human job is something that I think is quite far away. So we're looking for how it can help you, not replace you. I think we're often trying to give whole chunks of things to the AI, as opposed to working with the AI as a collaboration partner and a tool. The other thing I wanted to say is AI is not like traditional software. It's not programmed. So this is kind of my really low tech explanation of what AI and the generative AIs like Chat GPT or Midjourney that we're seeing these days. Why do they do weird things like, make hands with 6 fingers and hallucinate? AI, is its own thing. If you think about what software is, all the software we've ever used, it's a programmer who sits down and figures out the problem and then explains to the computer with code, line by line, how the computer should solve the problem. Meaning the human figures it out first, and then the computer just executes it really fast. AI, we don't know what the AI is doing. What we do with an AI is we give it a goal, and then we give it lots and lots and lots of examples. And then we tell it when it's doing right, and we tell it when it's doing wrong. So it's kind of more like an organism. You give it a bunch of food, and you say, and then you tell it, go do this. And then if it doesn't do the right thing, it dies. And then it grows better and more functional by adapting and evolving to the situation. So this is why it's kind of like an organism, a bit chaotic and unpredictable. I've been working with Chat GPT for the past year and a half, and sometimes it just goes weird on me. The answers come out differently, and I'm constantly having to update. So as much as I'm going to teach you about how to get the most out of an AI, you constantly have to be kind of watching what it does and adapting your output and refreshing it. I did a whole article on this called The Unreliable Computer Revolution. How do we work with computers that are a little bit crazy, and sometimes they do different things? And what I want you to do when you're watching this is to not think about just how AI can be used at one particular stage, but how you could use it throughout the life cycle of your products and projects. So we can use AI to transcribe our interviews and calls. Every time you make a phone call, it says this call is being recorded for quality purposes. You can use AI today to actually leverage that. So use that as a source of real insight for your customer journey maps. Extract what are the main problems that people are having from your call logs. Find out what the way that people articulate their problems on the phone or to a salesperson. So the AI can be used right at the beginning. Then we're looking at this stage right now, which is when we're modeling and ideating. So we're going to use AI interview substitutes or persona simulations, where we do our journey mapping. We can also do things like metadata design, tagging our assets for us, interaction design. We can use it. We can build reuse recommendation engines, content brainstorming plans, personalization plans, even personalization variant generators. And then at the end, yes, we can deliver with chatbots, and we can do data analysis and all that good stuff. But what I'm seeing most of is people having trouble at this, not applying it in this middle stage, which we're going to talk about today. So the message here, don't confine AI to one area or phase. So in summary to this bit, AI enables us all to be programmers without being coders. So those who can best understand the problem, its context, its constraints, and the intended results, and are able to express that logically and clearly, vigilant for their own and the AI's bias, will win the future. So basically, what we're doing with AI is enabling us, those of us who who do analysis of the problem, understand the customer context, and really understand what the customer is getting at, are going to become more and more important in the organization, because it's us who are going to define what these AIs should be doing for us. Okay, so now this is the part where that you all came for. What are the methods we can adopt? So I'm going to look at personas and journeys, which are that detailed diagnosis and the planning methodology. So what I train my AIs to do is to look at the journey as questions over time. So what are they asking, and what is the emotional content of that question, and how does that play out over time? So whatever the journey is, like if I want to apply to a university, or I want to decide if I want to try a medication, or apply for a loan with my bank, or buy a big piece of software, I have questions at the beginning when some of those will have different emotional significance. Like if I'm buying a big piece of software, I might be scared whether this is going to lose me my job or not. So I'm wondering, am I going to get fired if I make the wrong decision? That could be a very emotional question. If I am trying to get a loan for a house, I can have very emotional questions. So we want to prioritize the high emotion questions, whether they're positive emotions or negative emotions. But we also want to be conscious that this journey is a passage of questions over time. And how do we will know that people are advancing along their journeys by looking at the kind of questions that they ask. And we're gonna get the AI to help us with that. Also, context. The journey might take place in different situations. It could be different personas. You could have different metrics that you want to measure for that situation, for a different product, for different life moments, with different motivations, etc. And the persona simulation in AI lets you experiment with all these different scenarios, much more than you would ever be able to afford to do if you're doing all your research with real humans. But that also creates a taxonomy, which is the categorization system for how we organize everything in our journey maps. And we want to also explain to our AIs that system so they can respond properly. So this is my journey template. I'm just going to give you a little overview before I show you the live thing. So we have the persona up in the corner, and then we have goals, the story, the narrative that the persona is going through. I make a big deal about that. I really like having the user tell their story in words, and I always make it first person. So I don't say that the user does this, the user does that. I say, I make sure that the persona is saying, I need to do this, I need to do that, because I have found that, and I've watched this happen in workshops, when people switch from describing what the user does to saying what the user does in the first person, saying, oh, I need this, I need this, and I need to do the following, then the empathy comes out. And so AI can be helpful of giving you another person's perspective in that first person. Then there's the questions. So we have the questions for this moment, geography, channel, persona, the channels and touch points, and the problems. And we're going to map that to the part that the humans do. So you will still be, as designers and journey mappers, looking at what are we going to do about the questions? How are we going to answer the questions? What are our ideas for improving the experience? That's where we build our design our design components and our content components. It's really important to try to map these things across the journey, because you have a very specific context and can say, okay, well, if this person is in this situation and has this question, this is what we can do to help them. And this is the information we want to guide them to. And then, as I was saying, very, very important to look at the metrics and data. So how do you know that the persona is moving along their journey, and how do you measure that? Also, what data are you going to use at that point? So if you're going to do personalization, if you're going to do something more advanced, what data is it that you're going to need to put your hands on and leverage? So I've used I've used the Lego metaphor a couple of times. I was showing you the Lego pieces on the board there. I've talked about atomic content, modular design, object-oriented. This term modular components, there's all sorts of different ways that we talk about this. And it's just a different approach to content and UX design. And I like the Lego metaphor a lot, because it makes design and content more manageable, scalable, and personalizable. And so I found that working with the AI helps us get out of our own head and get into this questions over time idea, so that we can focus our time on designing these components across multiple journeys, across multiple personas. I'll give you a simple example of that, where that's been important. So we had, this is a banking example. We had a customer that was being targeted on social media, and they would click a promotion, or they would click some inbound link, like a newsletter or an email. And so this is a bank customer, and they are a whatever kind of persona, and they're considering whether to switch suppliers based on rewards packages or frequent flyer travelers. Sorry, for frequent travelers. And the customer arrives on an owned landing page. So they get to their bank, and what happened was the offers on that page didn't make sense for the campaign, and they didn't make sense for that specific customer. So they had not thought out the journey to think, well, if this kind of person arrives on the page, what are they going to see, and how are we going to target them properly? So they're not happy. So what we looked at doing is, rather than designing pages as our unit and giving our staff the ability to just build pages however we want, they built the pages as Lego pieces, so that we were able to remove contextually irrelevant promotions. So we could move the things that were actually interesting for this person up to the top of the page, and lay them out in a different layout depending on who they were and what the promotion was. And if they're logged in, then we can even detect frequent travel-related purchases and offer specific benefits for them. So then we can turn that situation around and see that my current package already does this, and there's even add-ons I can get. So we have, by looking through their journeys and thinking about the data connections, then we are able to deliver a much better result. Okay. How do we actually do it? So I'm going to take you through what we call the RAUX method, which is rapid AI-powered user experience. So there's a file on that code. You don't have to scan it right now. As Veronica said, you will get the slides afterwards. But there, I've got a quick start guide, which you can look at, and that file is being continually updated. And it has a lot of the prompts and techniques that are going to be talked about in this webinar. The concept there is, it's a methodology for accelerating audience-centric design and planning for omnichannel. By using generative AIs like Chat GPT, you can create these infinitely patient personas to walk through as many journeys as you want. So we have different personas that we create for our needs. We can build assistant designers, we can build writers, and you or your team are driving this blended human AI team. So now I'm going to walk you through the journey example. Okay, so I want to show you the structure of the journey first. So as I mentioned, we're figuring out the goals of our persona here. So this is Antonio. He's a medical doctor. He's an endocrinologist. And we have his goals and his story. And as I said, very importantly, questions over time. So Antonio has a patient, and he's going to add a new drug to the treatment plan, but they're already taking a drug. So it's crucial to ensure that the combination of these medications does not adversely affect my patient's health. And Antonio needs to be calm in front of the patient so they don't pick up any anxiety. He doesn't have time to fully research this now, but wants to inform the patient at a high level on this course of action. I'm not going to take you through every row. I just want to show you the overall structure. So I talked about questions over time, looking at the processes and channels, the problems that they have, the tasks that they're going to accomplish. And we split these up into productivity tasks, information tasks, communication, transaction tasks. So getting something done, learning about something, communicating with somebody else, or buying something and or exchanging money, goods, services. Think, feel, quote. So what is their sums up their current situation, and the sentiment. What's the kind of dominant emotion right now? So that is our journey map structure. I'm going to take you through the rest in a minute, but where the AI comes in is that this map was made working with a RAUX persona simulation. So if you have a paid version of GPT, you can chat with Antonio on this link. So this is Antonio. He is an AI, a simulation of a medical doctor. And you see he's been configured to have certain skills. So I am going to ask him to list his known commands. So you can see this is not a generic AI. This is an AI which we have configured to have certain commands that it knows how to follow. And you can see the really important one for this workshop right now is journey stage. So the AI knows who he is, what his main tasks are, his motivations, and so on, but also knows how to speak in journey stages. So the way that we built our journey map was to take different contexts. So if I take Antonio here, my persona, and I say, you're with a new patient and you're seeing symptoms that you don't really recognize. So we put them in a context. By using this stage command, Antonio is going to help us build our journey map. So I'm showing you the outcome, and then we're going to go back through exactly how all this was done. So you can see here now Antonio speaks in journey map. He replies with his goals and a numbered list. And so he wants to accurately diagnose the unfamiliar symptoms, ensure that the diagnostic process does not overlook any underlying potential conditions, etc. And then he gives us a narrative. He speaks from his perspective that he's encountered a challenge, and what he's going to need to do, and stuff that I wouldn't have thought of. So I am not a doctor. I would not have kind of thought about the importance of continuous learning. It's a good point. This is it's true. I gave Antonio a situation, and Antonio has given me something that I wouldn't have thought of off the top of my head, that a doctor in that situation needs to be continuously learning and updating themselves. And then his questions, problems, his sentiment, think, feel, quote, tasks, and so on. So how do we do that? How do we get our personas to help us walk through the journey? Okay, so I'm going to show you how we create these personas. Overall, we use a high-level set of guidelines for all of our prompts. When we're creating anything with an AI, we try to give it some structure. So we start with context, and we literally put hashtag context, and we specify what the situation is that the persona is the AI is going to be in. In this case, it's going to be a persona, and it's going to reply. It's going to help me with journey mapping. That's the context for this AI. Then guidelines. Do we have any ethical considerations? Do we want it to be thorough? Do we want it to think step by step, or to give us short, quick answers? The task itself, which we don't actually put in for journey mapping, but this is when we're creating other prompts. The task itself is something we describe. In the personas, we just give them a framework. So any shortcuts or frameworks that we want the persona to work with. So this is where we describe that this AI should understand how a journey map works. And then validation. If we have any criteria that show desirable or undesirable responses. So in an AI, to get the AI to become a persona, we have to take those high-level headings and fill them out with either custom instructions, or in the new Chat GPT, there's this feature called GPTs. So the idea of a custom instruction is setting up a custom environment. So this is not just for Chat GPT. This is for most artificial intelligences like Claude or Grok. You have somewhere where you can put in custom instructions, or what's called a system prompt, or custom parameters. The idea there is you set up your environment for your work once, and then it applies it for all responses in all sessions for interactions where they're enabled. So in Chat GPT, you can go to your custom instructions. So if I go over to Chat GPT, and I go to Antonio, and I go into my settings, I can see my custom instructions. So I don't have any custom instructions in here right now, because what ChatGPT has done is it has made it so that we can put custom instructions on different versions of GPT. So these are called GPTs. So in ChatGPT, if we go to our GPTs, and I go to my GPTs, here's Antonio. So Antonio is a GPT that I have built for creating journey maps. This is really powerful because this is what lets you put Antonio in your team. So different journey mappers, different roles within the business can all access this one GPT on a link. So I can just copy that link, and I can send it to anybody I want. And then I will immediately start a conversation with this persona. The way that works is everything that was in custom instructions is just moved to the GPT. And what we're doing looks like this. We take the context, and that's, I'm going to tell them, I'm going to assign you a persona for UX research, supplying a scenario to work through in stages. So we're setting a clear context. And then we tell it, once we've given you a persona, maintain it unless instructed otherwise. I'll provide you journey stage context, and you'll reply stage by stage according to the headings I've given you. So we've set some clear guidelines. And then we have this framework. So that's where I built my shortcuts. So here are skills and behavior pairs. So it does the behavior when it hears the skill name. So if I provided an input, it will execute using that input. So these shortcuts are extremely powerful and useful when you're using AIs. Don't just open up Chat GPT or Claude and start asking it questions. You want to build your persona by giving it all of this framework stuff in here and defining not only who it is, but how it behaves and how it talks to you. So the skills it has, for example, Antonio had the list skill, double S there, list any known forms, skill, formatted skills, learn skill, which is incorporate data into his profile. And it even, I'm not going to read you this one, but it's a CSV skill. I'll show you that in a minute. So if we look at Antonio and come back to him, we put in that big prompt at the beginning. So if we look at Antonio under the hood, when we edit him, here's Antonio's custom instructions. What does the GPT do? How does it behave? What should it avoid doing? And here's all that material. So I've assigned you a persona and I tell him it's Antonio. Then everything I just showed you. There's some extra stuff in here I'm not going to go through right now. But then we get down to the skills. So Antonio has all these different skills, like the ones I just showed you. Here's the one for journey stages. So in the journey stage, it uses the context to craft a new journey stage and using the provided headings. And then I show it, how do I want my journeys done? So you can change any of these. So I could remove goals if I don't want goals. I could get rid of that little sentiment bar with a smiley face with the 1 or 2 words, or the think, feel quote. You decide how you want to structure your maps. But the idea is you can teach your GPT that structure for journey stages, for content, for UX concepts that you're looking at, and then your AI will always be able to output in that format in a consistent way. So I want to pause there. So those kind of the main concepts. I've given you a lot of overview of kind of how it works. I want to see what kind of questions we're getting in before I get too far. Can we do kind of a midpoint look at the questions, Veronica?
Yes, sure. There was a question when you were talking about the MD GPT when you actually showed it. There was a question from Aurelia. Do the narratives need to be vetted with human doctors?
So it's always a good sign when this happens. When you anticipate something I have ready, that means that we're thinking the same way. So up at the top of my map, and you will get a copy of the map, it says here, always validate the output of any AI with the relevant subject matter experts. So we're doing these persona simulations. They're incredibly useful. They are what a persona really is, which is kind of a representative of an average example of that kind of person. However, they don't know local regulatory rules. So for example, what doctors can say and do is different depending on the country. They may slightly misinterpret the rules. They also do, every now and then, they do little things like they confuse info, productivity, transaction, and I have to copy and paste them into the right category. They also have short memories. And like any other AI, as I was talking, it's kind of like working with a little animal. It's not like working with a software program that does the same thing every time exactly the same. So you have to review everything that the AI says, and then you should have it reviewed by any relevant subject matter experts to make sure that they are checking that what the AI is saying really reflects what you want to say before you go to market. there's a limit to that, how much access you have to these subject matter experts. It may be limited. So the good thing about the AI is it lets you bring them a whole journey map and go, look, this is what we think your experience is like. If you were in this situation, would these be the questions you have? If you were in this situation, would these be the channels you're using? Would these be the problems that you're having? Would these be the tasks that you have? So you can go in with a very nice, well-done journey map and even multiple maps and review them rather than showing up at the beginning and saying, okay, well, tell me what your job is like. Or if you've done that, you can take that information, and I'll show you this in a second, put it into the AI, and then come back to them with a better result. So it's doing all the same work, but with much less time, much less budget, and then much more ability to do more maps.
Thanks a lot. And there was another question from Felix. Could you share these custom instructions for Antonio?
Absolutely. So in the slides are the main custom instructions. I can share Antonio. I can actually add the slides for Antonio. Antonio. That might be a little much. I'll have to think about that one. I can show you how to do a persona. Whether I can share Antonio himself, I'm not sure about that. But I will see if I can share. But the basics are the same for all of the personas. You will get a link so you can work with him. That's for sure. What was the other question?
That was actually the question.
Oh yeah, can I get
Yeah, there are some more common questions in here. I guess you will finish with the practical part, and we will then move to the questions, right?
Yes, absolutely. So now I think that everyone's kind of asking, can I get the prompts and things like that? So that takes me back to the next bit. Okay, so that's how you build up your persona. So all of this is in the slides, which you can get the slides, and with this you will already be able to build your own personas for working with Chat GPT. The other thing which I add to try to make them more effective and more realistic are things like tone of voice. How would that persona speak? And that's something you can work out with your GPT. You can give them a persona and then ask for a list of style rules. So I'll show you that in 2 seconds. The background, you enter the background, your goals, enter the goals, and whatever other research you have. So your problems, tasks, other research data, etc. So I am going to now, with you right now, we're going to create a new persona simulation. So you saw earlier how Veronica already showed you that you can use AI to create a new persona in UXpressia. So I don't have to show you that part. So let's say you've used UXpressia to create your persona. So we have a simple persona here, and her name is Sarah. And now how do I make Sarah? How do I go from my persona in UXpressia to having a GPT which represents Sarah? So we're going to turn Sarah into a new little AI. So let me get rid of all this stuff because I'm editing it in another window. So it's not letting me edit. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to, and I do this all the time. This is something that one of the things we do in our projects. I'm going to take Sarah, or persona, and I'm going to take the material that you're going to get from the slides, and I'm going to turn Sarah into a new persona. So I'm going to go to my GPTs. I'm going to create a new GPT, and this is going to be Sarah, and she's a content professional. And so this is a RAUX persona simulation. And so now we take the combination of what we're giving you and what you would get out of Chat GPT, out of UXpressia, sorry. So I'm going to take the custom instructions, and I'm going to make Sarah into an interaction-ready simulation. So I'm going to assign you a persona, Sarah, for UX research. So then you can keep all this stuff. I will correct that typo, with 2 S's. I'm going to add that, which I'll show you what that means. You don't have to listen. It's pretty long, so I don't have to go through it all. And then add the journey stuff. So now Sarah is got the basics of the RAUX methodology in there. And then I want to give her her background. So here is your background. And I copy and paste whatever background research we have on Sarah. So Sarah is, she has been working in the content industry for the past 15 years. She started as a content writer in a small firm, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. She's in middle upper management in a large multinational brand. And then she's interested in these concepts. Your motivations are, and put in motivations, and your frustrations are, okay, and the frustrations. So now, access anyone with a link. Okay. So here's Sarah. I didn't give her her photo yet, but that's pretty easy. Just give her her photo. But now I can test Sarah and say, what's on your mind today? So she's contemplating the challenges on content production management processes, etc. So this is a completely different answer than I would get if I went into a regular GPT. So if I went into regular Chat GPT and said, what's on your mind today? I get something totally different. Very, very short, very generic. So Sarah is already kind of behaving like Sarah. So as you saw, I took by copy and paste, I took what I got out of UXpressia, what I got out of the RAUX methodology, and I can now ask Sarah, or put Sarah in a situation. You're watching a webinar on AI and journey mapping with UXpressia and Urbina Consulting. So Sarah automatically knows how to speak in Journey Map because she's got the RAUX prompts in there. So this is what I definitely will give you, is the ability to put these prompts in so you can take your UXpressia personas and all of your research and put them into Chat GPT so you can turn them into your journey mapping assistants. Okay, so I think that's all the main concepts I wanted to cover. I want to make sure that I talk about bias a little bit. So many people will be worried about bias in AI. So we know that bias in AI is an issue. So if you ask for attractive people, you get young, thin white people. If you ask for a portrait of a person at social services, you get racist cliches. If you ask for a productive person, you get a white guy at his desk. So although bias shows up in AI defaults, it has been trained on vast and diverse data. So there is diversity in the training data. So it can represent diverse perspectives if you ask it to. So I think people open up ChatGPT, like I did here, and say, what's on your mind today? And then they get very biased results. That's definitely going to happen because it's of the way that AIs are made. If you want your ChatGPT to give custom results, you have to give it custom instructions. You have to tell it what kind of background it is, what kind of person it is, what kind of answers it should be giving, what kind of tone of voice should it have. And less mature AIs can drift back to bias. So if you see them coming out with biased outputs, you might have to remind them. And the last bias that I want to warn you about when you're creating your GPTs is they have a bias towards positivity. Real customers do not. So when we're doing our personas, we often we would go into someone like Sarah and always add something at the bottom, like you are cautious, skeptical, want real evidence, whatever your controls are to make sure that this is not the perfect customer, that they don't click every link, they don't love every web page. So that's a kind of a warning. The bias, these are built as assistants. So they want to help you. They want to do things. They're always happy. So if you want a more realistic persona, you actually have to just put that in the prompt saying, be cautious, be skeptical, ask good questions. And then you get a much better persona for creating real empathy and really effective customer journey maps. So I think we're good there on the main stuff. In conclusion, so you can take your market data, map out your team, like what are all your different personas and how do they relate to each other? How does that work in AI? Begin training them, map out your audience journeys and requirements, and then use that to model your knowledge, your domain, your metadata, your content, and the applications and designs themselves. Then you can start designing. So I want to thank everybody very much. I really want to get to your questions. You have a link there with, if you mention this section, you can get a discount on all Urbina consulting workshops. I know that last time we had tons of questions, so I left some time for that today, as well as pausing earlier.
Thank you, Noz. Thank you for the presentation and for showing how to use the ChatGPT AI to create a journey map. Well, I see some questions in the chat. We'll get back to them in just a minute because I want to remind everyone that our team at Uxpressia can walk you through our AI persona maker, our journey mapping tool, and highlight you all the features that might be helpful for you to make your journey mapping process faster. For that, you need to book a free 15-minute call with our team via the link in the chat. And if you already build the maps in some other tools, you still can check out your expression and its features. And if you like, it will help you to transfer your maps smoothly. So back to the questions. I would like to ask you, the first question was from Morgan. And the question was, how do you think the use of AI for this type of work relates to an organization's CX maturity? For example, if an organization doesn't have an established journey mapping practice, should they start the more traditional manual route to build a foundation and then explore AI usage once their maturity builds? Or is it okay just to jump right into using AI from the start?
I would say that this is a powerful tool, and I think someone on the team should have good, solid UX fundamentals in place before you start just using them. So I do think that having a manual attempt first as a foundation, and then using the AI to build on top of that is a good thing. So one of the things that I kept showing you was that I kept giving the AI a context, and then the AI says, well, these would be my questions, these would be my goals, these would be my problems. You know, you have to at least know what are the contexts. What questions should I be putting this, what situations should I be putting this AI into? If you don't know that, then you're not going to have a very meaningful conversation with the AI.
Thank you, Noz. Thank you, thank you. There is a bit of a conversation probably in the chat because Kim was asking that I mentioned, and actually you mentioned that at the beginning, that we could use the free Chat GPT to experiment with everything actually that you showed. And there, I believe, is it possible actually to create your own GPTs with the free version? And if not, like, how is it going to work?
Yeah, so that's kind of true. So the free version does work. It's the free version. I'm not going to say it works as well, but it does work. So I'll show you, this is a different website called grok.com. And this is a completely free website, and you can go in here, and I showed you this idea of a system prompt, and I've copied Sarah into grok.com as well. So put all the same stuff. And so if I go into this grok.com and say, JStage, you're watching a webinar on AI. It will work. So I have not used it as much. I could say it's still going to be a very useful tool. For the price of 20 euros a month, I think it's very worth getting the paid version, but you can experiment and you can try it in the free version. So in Chat GPT, what you don't get in the free version is this idea of saving your GPT as an actual person. So you're not going to have an Antonio, but what you will have is you will have a chat. So down the left-hand side here, you have your chats. So what I used to do before they had this GPT feature, so this is GPT 3.5, that's the free version. So I would go in and I would copy in my stuff. Oh, I never showed you the CSV thing. I'll have to show you that next time.
You did.
Okay, so I copy in all my stuff. And then I would copy in, well, I'll just copy in my background for now. This is your background. Okay, so it kind of immediately starts to execute it. But now if I ask in this chat, what's on your mind today? So you can see the free one is actually a lot faster. So, it is replying properly in the free one. So instead of having the nice, convenient thing where you have a photo and everything, I would just rename this chat as Persona Sarah. Content Pro. And so now Sarah's here. So I can go in and I can chat with her. The problem is that after you get one journey map done, or even half a journey map, you might have to reset her because she doesn't have a very long memory, and she doesn't have that custom instructions the way that it does with the way that wasn't in the paid version. But it will absolutely work, and you can absolutely experiment with it. And if you like it, then you can decide whether you want to invest.
Sounds fair.
Yeah, so absolutely works. And it's actually very fast, which is nice.
Okay, thank you, Noz. Another question was, if a stage, a certain task within the journey gets eliminated, let's say as a part of some process change, do we redefine the inputs or do a new prompt for what needs to be considered, and the persona on the CJM changes as needed?
I'm not sure I understood the question. So the situation is you have the journey has changed?
The situation is that one stage gets eliminated, well, for some reasons. And then the question is if a part of this process changes or the map, like, just a sec. That's a long question. I'm still trying to figure it out. Yes. So if a stage gets eliminated, so do we redefine the inputs to the, well, probably to the AI, or do a new prompt changes itself?
So what I've done here is I've created, so if I have so if I go back to Antonio, so if I'm talking to Antonio, actually I don't have to, I can stay with Sarah. So I'm talking to Sarah and we're talking about her journey. She kind of knows the last, let's say 10 interactions we've had, and then she starts to kind of forget. So you need to put things in Expressia. That's your master source for your journey. So if something changes, you change it in Expressia. And if it's not making sense anymore, you might go back to Chat GPT and put the new process in and see what the AI says and see if it's different. But there's no kind of automatic connection. Your main management of your actual journeys and all the changes that are happening to them are still happening in Expressia. The AI is just a way of helping you work with Expressia or work with your journey mapping tool if you're not using a Expressia faster and more effectively. But the main work of managing your journey and seeing where seeing and managing the changes happens there. And then you can ask the AI, how would you react differently?
Thank you, Noz. After you answered the question, I just realized that I understood it. Okay, then we have a question from Millie. Are there any security or privacy issues with sharing research data on ChatGPT? And does OpenAI use the data you input in their own database?
So if this is one of the things about the paid one, if you pay, then your data is private. If you use the free one, they can train on your data. So I don't think that means that there's going to be people necessarily like reading your data. I don't actually know. So for the free one, you don't have security and privacy because you're not paying for it. If you do pay for it, then yes, you will have the option to secure data.
Summing it up, if you're using a free version, do not, put your research data in Chat GPT, just for, in case of emergency.
Yeah.
Okay, the question was from another question was there were many questions actually if people could use other tools rather than Chat GPT, and one of the tools was a pilot by Microsoft. Is it possible to use it? Well, do you know anything about it?
Microsoft Copilot is ChatGPT, so I wouldn't see any real problem. And I have found we're working with clients who are building their own kind of systems that are agnostic. So that example that I just showed you on grok.com here. So this is using a model called Mixtral. You can also choose Llama, which is by Meta or Facebook. So you can do the same thing in just about any good competent model. It's just the UI and how good it's going to be, but they will all basically work.